Welcome to the Flowing Health podcast, everyone. Today, I'm really excited to have Andy Malcolm on, who's a practitioner of transformational healing. And the title of our chat is My Wound of Abuse Has Led Me to Success and Freedom. So welcome, Andy.
Thank you for having me today, Alessandro.
Great. And Andy and I met last year at the Mankind Project, which is a charity that helps to empower men to show up as the great versions that they can be in society, making a difference to themselves and others. So we've been on this journey together a little bit, and I know that I've got to know Andy a bit, and I'm really excited that he's sharing his journey from abuse to helping others transform, and how he came to be successful and free himself from limitations as well. So can we just talk a little bit about your background, your story, Andy, and how you came to come into this transformational, being a practitioner of transformational healing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I guess I experienced abuse when I was younger, and anyone who's gone through that will have experienced a lot of difficulties which come from that. And for me, it's primarily experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of feelings of lack of self-worth, shame, guilt. But from a pretty early age, I decided that I would try and actually do something about it. And so I've gone through quite a few different sort of modalities of trying to heal myself. And I guess I've really arrived at a point now where I feel truly healed, where so much of the stuff, and particularly over the last year, has just been let go of. And yeah, so it's a very adept title there. That's the wound of abuse.
And very, very, very current as well. Obviously, many of us know this quote, sometimes attributed to Leonard Cohen, sometimes to Rumi. You know, the wound is where the light gets in. Wound. And I notice you have a lot of books, a bit like me. People can probably see them if they're watching on video. So I imagine books have been a great help as well, but I know you've done quite a lot of courses. And maybe talk a little bit about let's talk about the freedom aspect, because I imagine, our wounds tend to keep us often stuck where we are. And when did you notice things maybe starting to shift, that you could actually let go and actually start on your journey towards helping others as well?
Well, I think what's been key for me the most is accepting my imperfections. And I did a lot of retreats last year, and on one of the retreats in particular, it just felt so safe to show everybody all of my imperfections, my lack of self-worth and insecurities and anxieties. And I was met with total love and acceptance by all the other people on that retreat. And that was a real big changer for me, because I always kind of felt that if I vocally sort of expressed what I was feeling inside, that it would be met with ridicule or lack of acceptance or passiveness. But yeah, I was genuinely met with everybody's beautiful love. And that really gave me the license to start asking for help from people, which is a massive thing for anyone who's experienced abuse in their life, is to be able to say, this is how I feel, can you help me? And the relief that comes from that is fantastic. Yeah.
And I imagine, also us two being men, I think generally men find it more difficult to reach out for help, because we're taught from a young age to be self-sufficient. Boys cry, don't be silly, get yourself together, all this terminology that boys use together, and peer pressure. So that must have been quite a departure for you, and I think that's quite moving to hear that how it was accepted, and how that transformed how you saw the abuse as well. So that I think this is maybe the first lesson for many people to reach out and ask for help, obviously in the appropriate places as well.
Yeah, well, accessing tears for me was always a difficult thing. And it's kind of like I had to be cornered. Someone really had to push the buttons and say the right things for me to be able to let something out. So yeah, that's so being able to cry in front of a room of compassionate people that was just life-changing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of both men and women, who haven't cried for years. So it's not just men, but sometimes as adults, if we haven't been able to cry or express before pain, it's held in, isn't it? The body holds in, and it can become an illness as well, dis-ease.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened for myself. Was irritable bowel syndrome and hiatus hernias and skin problems, and it's the body stores it all and expresses it in some shape or form.
Yeah. So since that experience, if you like, I know now you work as a practitioner of transformational healing. Just tell us a little bit about that journey from that event to now, because I know now you found your purpose really to help other people through their transformation.
Well, I had a lot of psychotherapy sessions in my past. But psychotherapy is great, it's an avenue of support. But what I generally found was that the issue that I was presenting to the therapist never seemed to get resolved. I felt supported in it. I felt held, and I could have an avenue of expression in it. But I still had the same problem at the end of psychotherapy that I had at the beginning. And right the way through the therapy, often the therapist would say, I don't know why you're not doing this for a living, because you would make such a fantastic therapist. But something always held me back in that. And I really realize now that what it was is because if I'm not actually having my issue fully resolved, why would I want to then go into that as a job if I couldn't actually help the clients in a really more complete manner? So that's when I came across the transformational healing process. And it was a real big changer for me, because it felt like I could present my teacher with an issue, and at the end of that session, it would feel like it had either gone or it would be significantly reduced. So then I have the connection. Well, if that's making such a big difference to me, then I'll train in it, because now this feels more complete for me. So yeah, that's and having the confidence to actually train in something, and that's where the success for me is now, is being able to help people with a tool that will really, really make a big difference to them. So yeah, that feels like real big success for me, that one.
Right, and obviously making a big difference to you, then you see how it could help others. I mean, that's quite a big transformation in the past. How long was the training, like in the past year, 2 years or so?
Well, it was last year, over a period of about 4 months, and it was fantastic, because right from the moment of training, there was just like this click. This is for me. And I actually had to be persuaded to train in it at the beginning, but my teacher sort of said, "Go with it. Something will come of it." And I'm so grateful that she gave me that encouragement. yeah, it just felt like something aligned for me, and I can bring that gift to other people now.
Brilliant. I mean, we'll put the links below. We'll put your email in. People can get in touch. I know you offer a free consultation, so they can arrange something with you. And anything you can tell us about the method, because I've heard of things like NLP and timelines. I work with Qigong, obviously, which also helps to connect with the energy, to dissolve many issues that are held in the body. But I'm curious to know a little bit more also about that.
Yeah, well, as you say, so many of the traumas, both sort of minor and major, they're held in or filed in our central nervous system. And later on in life, the central nervous system just reacts in the same manner to a similar situation. And it can become such a restriction for us. So what I do is I take people into a really deep state of relaxation, and I allow the memory to actually surface. So I don't give any encouragement to that. I want them and their own body's memory to actually find what went on in the childhood and allow that memory to surface up. And the important thing is in this is then allowing the child at the age when something happened, or an adult when something happened, to have a different experience of it. So what I do is I actually give, for instance, let's say, for instance, it was a 5-year-old child who had a bad experience. I give that 5-year-old child the words to say to the person who caused hurt to them. I give them the right words to actually say at that point, which then allows the central nervous system to relax. It allows it to let go of its defense mechanism. So when they're in a similar situation in their adult life, the central nervous system doesn't respond in the same way. It's now saying, well, actually, I don't need to protect. I don't need to sort of kick in the fight, flight, freeze or fawn response, because this no longer registers as a danger anymore. So the sessions can last about 2 hours. And that is the really key part. It is giving a different experience to the trauma, a different wording. So I might actually give the sort of little child the words, or I might speak on that little child's behalf to the perpetrator. It makes such a huge difference. It relaxes the whole system back down again.
Amazing. I mean, and it sounds like must be quite, at least sounds to me like it can be quite traumatic to bring up that event again. Or is it done in a way that you're empowering the child to kind of fight back or use words to have a different outcome almost?
Yeah, generally I trust that the body sort of lets go of what it's able to let go of and what it feels safe enough to let go of. And making the client sort of feel like they're in a safe, confidential environment is really important, so that they can allow something to come up. And sometimes people can access something really big, sort of almost immediately. And other times it's kind of like I've got to go through a lot of sort of defense mechanisms to access something more important. So, yeah.
And do you find that, in one session, does it take one or maybe a couple of sessions generally? Because obviously with psychotherapy, like you said, sometimes it can be years and you're not making quick progress, or sometimes doesn't feel like much progress.
Sometimes people might only need 1 or 2 sessions. If it's something quite small they want to work on, I do recommend really sort of working over 3 months, perhaps every other week, every 2 to 3 weeks over 3 months. is a good time span. I like to have sort of a couple of weeks in between each session, just to allow whatever's come up to integrate for the client to make sense of things. So yeah, 3 months would be a good period, I would say.
Great. So success and freedom, yes. And success, tell me a little bit more about maybe how you view, success, because obviously one thing is letting go of the past and what's had a hold on you in a way. So how do you view success? I'm just curious.
Well, success for me is helping others. That's no amount of money in my bank account could compensate for the joy of just being able to make a difference to somebody else, and in making the difference to somebody else and make a difference to this world that we live in. And that's huge for me. But the freedom from my own self-limitations. I couldn't have done a podcast with you, Alessandro, a year ago. It would not have happened. I would not have had the self-confidence, the self-belief. My anxiety would have been way too great. So it's a real, I feel immensely proud of myself that in that year I've been able to reach a position where I can speak to you now and things to flow. Perhaps that's because I'm with Flowing Health here. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I when I met you, I remember you talked about anxiety, and I really honor you for kind of stepping up. And this is your first podcast you've done about your work and talking about this. So this is very, very, very courageous on your part. And also, I think it's courageous to help others and get so much satisfaction and joy from making a difference to other people, which I think is really amazing.
Yeah, and what I really like to say to people is that many times in my healing journey, I've reached points where I've sort of thought, well, I'm not getting anywhere, nothing's changing, and very easy for the ego to sort of kick in and get in the way of your healing process. But it's totally possible to completely heal. I mean, it's totally possible to let go of what you don't think is ever going to go from you. And I'm living testimony to that one. Keep going.
Keep going. So sorry?
Have faith. Trust. Surrender to the process.
Yeah. And giving people hope as well. I think, again, coming back to men, I think women tend to be much better at opening up and supporting each other. But I think this is really a key thing, obviously, to help you. I imagine you work with both men and women. Yes,
yeah. And it covers a whole diversity of whatever's blocking someone's progress in life, whether it's through wealth, whether it's health issues, financial relationship difficulties. Let's find out what the original block is. And it can be very subtle sometimes. It might be just needing a sense of connection to your father. So perhaps you follow their scarcity sort of mentality. And that's your way of feeling loved and connected to your father by following that as an example. But then in our lives, or in that person's life, perhaps we don't amass the wealth we want to amass or the success because we've got that scarcity sort of mentality going on, because we're being loyal to our father. It can be very subtle at times, but that's my job, is to really sort of help them with the narrative to overcome that.
So the transformational healing is obviously, it's not just abuse, it's whatever's in the way, whatever's in the way of us showing up maybe as the empowered humans that we're here, on the planet.
Yeah,
to kind
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to come from something major like an abuse situation like I've had. It can be so much more subtle than that. And I just allow the clients' innate intelligence and body intelligence to allow us to see that.
Yeah, I mean, often I say simple things, not really simple, but belief systems that keep us where we are as well.
Yeah.
What was handed down by our parents or in our school or our friends.
Yeah, we've got a big catalogue of it inside us, haven't we?
Yes. So just maybe what are the three main areas, just we might end on this, that you're drawn to, or you felt you've been able to help people with?
Certainly the lack of self-worth, finding out where that comes from. Health is a real passion for me. I've studied a lot of nutrition. I studied anatomy and physiology for 6 years. I trained in something called structural integration, which is making people as upright and symmetrical as I can. Something called visceral manipulation as well. So I really do have a sort of broad range of skills, but health is a real passion for me. Whether it's herbs and supplements and nutrition, I just adore talking about that. And I think the transformational healing goes hand in hand with offering that sort of nutritional and physiological sort of advice which goes with it. And just the general well-being of clients. Just what's serving somebody? Is this relationship that you're in actually serving you? Is that person being a very harsh teacher to you? And I guess that's probably one of the areas I really love to focus in on, because sometimes we see people like abusers or our hard father who beat us senseless or whatever. We tend to see them as a persecutor, and they obviously were, but what they also are is our greatest teacher. Because in my situation, my sense of abuse and my abuser became my greatest teacher. And I've actually reached a point now where I can actually express gratitude, where I can actually say, well, actually, if it wasn't for that incident, I wouldn't have gone on this journey, and I wouldn't have healed so many other aspects of myself in there. So it was a blessing.
Yeah, I think that's amazing to see the challenge, and especially something as serious as abuse as a blessing and a learning, and the fact that you can now help others, I think, is an amazing.
And perhaps from that, perhaps that will stop the cyclical nature of abuse as well. I mean, for myself, I've never been an abuser because I've always had consciousness of being abused. But if my work in some way can sort of stop somebody going through the same experience, then that's a blessing.
Fantastic. So abuse is one thing, but really I've made notes here: self-worth, issues with self-worth, which I think so many people have. Health issues, which could be nutrition, and then general well-being, which is could be emotions or mental health, all those things. So really, I would encourage people to get in touch with you on your email.
Yes,
Andy Malcolm, and we'll put the email in here. Offer people a free chat, confidential chat, and just see who you can help. And I just wish you the best on this journey. And I admire your courage in your first podcast, which you're doing with me, and I really appreciate it. So share it far and wide. And thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, it's a real blessing to have met you last year. It's kind of, there must have been, I don't know how many men on the course, but you and I have just clicked like brothers. And, you know, I've been so grateful for our friendship so far, and I'm sure it's going to continue for a very long time. And your wisdom and your beautiful voice that you have. I kind of like to sort of follow you in that regard and emulate a lot of your qualities that you emit.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I was going to say, if people don't know, the Mankind Project, I'll put a link below, but we did a new warrior training together, which was down in Devon, and we met, we didn't know each other, but since then we've kind of become quite close and, you know, support each other, and I'll do anything, you know, to support you in your journey. So I really appreciate it. It's quite funny, if people are watching this, they can, it looks like my bookshelf dissolves into your bookshelf. And they're real books, by the way, because sometimes people have a screen, you know, with fake books, but I think, I don't know, I'm trying to simplify. Are you trying to give some of yours away, or are you holding on to them all?
I have given away sort of about 300 or 400 books before,
wow.
But I'm hanging on to the ones which I'll probably reread 2 or 3 times, the key ones. Yeah.
Great.
I've probably got a lot of the same ones that you've got, I'd imagine.
Probably. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Andy. We'll see you on the journey, and please comment on this podcast. Get in touch with Andy and give us a 5-star rating. Share this if you find it useful. Anyone you know who may need help, who may want to reach out, you may want to reach out to. So thanks again, Andy, and see you soon.
Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.